Hello and welcome. This week we focus our attention yet again to the maritime sector, which many analysts believe is indeed the pivot of the nation's economy. The federal government, perhaps agreeing with this assertion, decided to put the sector in the front burner of its administration, where it will match other maritime nations of the world. And for the very first time in the country's history, the presidency decided to appoint a special advisor for Nigeria's maritime service. Now, there's no doubt that the sector is facing tough challenges in order to serve as the gateway to developing Nigeria's economy through the exploration and exportation of oil and gas and the need to ensure uninterrupted services of the shipping trade. 2 years into the life of the present administration, what can we say has been done so far to address maritime issues such as maritime security, the International Ship and Port Security Code, ports infrastructure, lack of credible institutions to train seafarers, to mention a few? But most importantly, how best can we as a nation review our maritime laws to check activities of people who engage in criminal activities within our maritime environment? Mr. Oyewole Leke, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Maritime Services, is our guest as he gives us an insight into what's been in the works as it affects his office and the maritime industry. Please stay tuned. I'm Ayatunde Balogun, and it's question time. Mr. Oyewole Leke, you're welcome to Question Time.
Thank you so much.
Now, we're looking at the maritime services or the maritime sector. Of course, you're the Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President in that area. And let's even start by casting our minds back to 2011, all through down to 2012, where government consistently made a promise that it will make sure that the maritime environment is friendlier, safer for operators. But today it seems that our ships, oil rigs, and even our oil wells are being under constant threat of attacks by some of these criminals, or should I call them militants, and just giving us all sorts of problems, particularly in the South-South region. Why is it still so?
Let me start by thanking the channels television for the special interest in this sector and for always being there to report what we do. Let me quickly start from 2011. In 2011, and in fact up till the time this administration took over, things violence against ships was prevalent, both even at the quays, at the port. To the ISIS, it was not a smooth ride for ships at all. When we came in, we started addressing the issues of piracy. Of course, security is very germane. Security and wealth creation the nexus is so strong that you can't, it's inextricable. We started by addressing the issues of piracy, and we succeeded so far. I would say we have succeeded so far. It's not yet what we want yet, but we've gone very far in that. We started from Lagos. It increased in Benin Republic. We went to Benin Republic from 2011 till date. It's been good at Benin Republic, Lagos, and generally in our waters. I can confidently tell you that any incident of piracy in the past 3 months, we've stood up to it. And it has been maybe 1 or 2, really. And the Navy had been very, very good. The synergy we've created has also helped. In terms of the port efficiency, we've been able to reduce the cargo clearance time drastically from about 39 days to 7 days. There are some of the cargoes that actually leave in 48 hours presently, not all the cargoes, but there are some of them that can easily leave within 48 hours. The traffic towards the port, we're addressing it. The congestion in Apapa, you will agree with me, Julius Berger is working on the roads. We're also trying to link the rails so that we can decongest the ports faster. And we're also looking at connecting the pipelines from Atlas Cove to Mosimi. That's making sure that we secure them. Atlas Cove to Mosimi, to Ejigbo, Ibadan, Ilorin, Ore, so that we can take away these trucks from Apapa and creating better flow of traffic in Apapa. That's the approaches, the port efficiency, then offshore administration. We have done relatively very well in all those areas.
All right, now you've talked about the issue of security, which of course you, like you pointed out, is really a serious issue. It's germane to all what we're talking about in the maritime sector. But there have been views, from several quarters that perhaps these, militants, seem to have sophisticated weapons more than our own military and other security outfits, in tackling some of these issues that we're talking about in the creeks and in our waterways. What's your reaction to this?
No, not at all. They're not winning. Like I said initially, this was a daily affair before this administration came to power. It was a daily affair. Now we talk about in 3 months, two incidents. We have done very well. But let me underscore certain things. You see, when you talk about the security, and to also let you know the importance of this security we're trying to address in the waterways. Before now, we've been labeled as, a risk zone. And as such, the risk premium on goods coming to Nigeria has really gone up. We currently, if you import a car to Nigeria, it costs about $300 more in freight than the ones that go to Cotonou. A ship will carry about 5,000 cars, can carry up to 5,000 cars. That means $1.5 million paid extra on that cargo because it is coming to Nigeria, because of the insecurity in Nigerian waterways. If you look at the fact that about 25 ships head for Nigeria on a daily basis, then you can imagine the kind of money we lose if something in that range is charged on all cargoes meant for Nigeria. That is enormous to any economy. If on a daily basis a country is losing between $15 to $20 million, it is bad, it's unacceptable. But beyond that, apart from that, we have the oil platforms that you just mentioned. Currently, the IOCs look at it as their responsibility to take charge of all these platforms. They hire platforms, get the Navy on board. These platforms are hired at their own prices. Nobody supervises it. And it goes into the cost of operation, which is deducted before profit is declared to the federal government of Nigeria. That means some people started spending our monies in advance before government gets to know what. So when you look at these losses here and there, it is enormous. And that is unacceptable. It's unacceptable by any standard. That underscores the reason why we have been trying to be proactive in terms of addressing the security challenges in the waters. Be that as it may, you remember in 2012, around June, the President convened the Interagency Maritime Operations Coordination Committee, which was a way of bringing synergy amongst all these agencies so that they can work better. When you look at of what use is NIMASA that will go out there and with their own staff, they do not have weapons to defend anything. Of what use is a navy that do not have information about a ship that that is illegal and the ones that are legal that cannot distinguish between these ships? Of what use is the Air Force that will fly and see atrocities on the ground but cannot stop by to arrest? There is need for synergy amongst these agencies. And I'm happy that this news is spreading amongst the agencies. This is the very first time we're trying to link up the agencies together, to work together. I was very happy sometime last year when at Jaji, I was invited to talk about interagency cooperation. It was a good meet, it was a good conference. The organizers, I commend them, because that means this thing is beginning to sink down in the hearts of people. Nigerians are used to holding tight to their agencies as if the information is meant for their families. It is meant for the public. It is for Nigeria. The better these people can work together, the more we'll win the war. you talked about whether these people are having upper hand. I tell you no, they're not having upper hand. Rather, the progress may have not been the way we want it, but then we are doing very well. They've moved back and we are pushing them further. We're going to exterminate this problem in our waters, and very, very soon. I've already started thinking on ways that we can begin to bring down the risk premium that people pay on goods coming to Nigeria, because it is important that we address that matter. And Nigerians cannot continue to lose such amount of money, to things that can be easily addressed by the government.
Now, Mr. Leke, having just looked at all these challenges that you've pointed out, do we really need to review our maritime laws and perhaps apply stiffer measures, to deal with these problems?
Talk about maritime laws. There is a critical gap that must be filled. I hope this administration will be able to do that before the administration winds up. You see, the Navy, with its capacity to effect arrests, and NIMASA, with their capacity to go on water with the Navy and effect these arrests, they do not have the capacity to prosecute. They are not given that powers to prosecute. What this means is that each time arrests are effected, you end up bringing a professional criminal to town and handing over to amateurs in the maritime sector. I'm talking about the police, I'm talking about the SS. They are not versed in things of the maritime activities. They are not trained in that area. When you put a professional criminal with amateur prosecutors, the next 2 days, you find the criminals on the street. And what can anybody do about that? The only thing we can do is to ensure that NIMASA and the Navy acquires that power. Or, no, let me say NIMASA, you cannot distract the Navy. The NIMASA should be given the powers to prosecute. Probably, for now, on need basis, but that blanket power should be given to them, so that they know what they have seen. They know the reasons why they have arrested. They should be able to also prosecute to a logical conclusion. And also, I want to also add that it is important that this nation begins to think of a maritime intelligence desk, where you have the police, you have the SS, the Marine Police, the SS, you have the Naval Intelligence, you can have from the Air Force, you can have people from the NIA, because we're talking about international business. And also taking cognizance of the fact that maritime crimes were planned on the land. The offices that perpetrate this thing are situated on the land. The banks where they move money is on the land. So we must be able to track this event vividly and be able to bring it to a logical conclusion. The way we arrest these days and you give to people that do not even know what to do with them, they find 2 days maximum, you find them back on the streets. It's not the best. So we must be able, recently, I tell you the peace we have now, it's not that too much effort, was put into it, but we've been strategic enough to identify, where to go and what to do. Concerted effort for 2-3 months will lay all these matters to rest.
Now, does that actually mean that when we bring in some of these police officers, to handle some of these issues that you talked about in the maritime sector, it seems they don't really know much about it, like you said. But what's your reaction to the cold murder of 12 of some of these officers in the Niger Delta region? Is that a factor here?
I wouldn't know the circumstances that led to that incident. I do not know the circumstances that led to it. But then, their knowledge about the maritime domain do not ordinarily translate to what has happened. It may be logistic constraints. It may be whatever thing it is. It may be an ambush. I do not know, and that would have caught anybody napping. I don't know what exactly happened, but it's unfortunate. it's unfortunate that we lose our armed men just like that.
What are the similarities, if there are, or differences, between the issue of oil bunkering and oil theft? We keep hearing illegal oil bunkering and oil theft. Which one is legal, which one is not? What are the similarities or differences, bunkering and theft? Perhaps you can make that a clarification for the benefit of our viewers.
Let me first distinguish between bunkering and oil theft. Bunkering is a totality of hospitality services a nation can render to ships that call on its waters. For example, supply of diesel, fuel, fresh water, and food on board the ship. That is bunkering. The word bunkering is being bastardized greatly in Nigeria. Bunkering is a legitimate thing. And even the president has just ordered that we should look at a sustainable framework so that we can begin to license people for bunkering. It was stopped in the year 2000 by President Obasanjo simply because of price disparities, because diesel, as at that time, was still being subsidized. And when you ask people, say, well, I give you bunkering license, go and take diesel to give to a ship, they end up exporting the diesel for higher prices. So it led to real smuggling, and the president didn't find it funny that time. He banned it. Today, the prices of AGO, it's been deregulated, and we can restart it. It will provide employment. It will provide money for Nigerians. So we're looking at sustainable framework to bring back bunkering in Nigeria, and we're going to license companies to do that.
So how soon will that be?
It's going to be very soon, because we've commenced meetings and we are working out the strategies that will not be faulted either by the operators or by the public.
Okay, but who are those that will actually be participating in this initiative, since it's been newly introduced?
We're looking at people that have what it takes to do this business. For you to do this business, bunkering, let me make it also clearer. Bunkering is like having fuel stations on the water, just like we have on land. So for you to be able to render this service, you must have the capacity to be able to store fuel offshore and be able to discharge into a ship that needs it. So there is that need for you to have good connection with refineries abroad or locally. There is that capacity, there is the need for capacity to be able to buy this product. We're not talking about 1 naira, 2 naira product. We're looking at real money, investment in that sector. And it will provide employment, provide money even for the government, and wealth for the nation.
All right, Mr. Leke, let's just hold our thoughts for a minute and take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion. It's question time on Channels Television. Our guest, Mr. Leke Oyewole, is still here with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You see, life has just got easier. You stay connected to Channels TV, where news and innovations are shaping our world. Simply log on to channelstv.com to get the breaking news. Browse the homepage according to what matters to you. Tap on the extended coverage of business, sports, politics, lifestyle, infotech, entertainment, health, world news, and lots more. Click on the live link and see the news in real time. Do you want to watch the latest video of the day? It's just a click away. Friend us on Facebook, YouTube, follow us on Twitter, Google+, participate in Channels TV poll, and share your comments. It's a website you can talk to. Your voice will be heard.
ChannelsTV.com. The news at your fingertips.
Welcome back. It's still question time on Channels Television. Mr. Leke Oyewole, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Maritime Services, is our guest, and we're looking at the maritime services, what's been happening in that sector. And quite a lot has already been said, but we're still going further, going deeper into some other issues. And you've made some clarifications, Mr. Leke, on bunkering and oil theft and all whatnot. But again, you know, when we talk about the issue of oil theft and this huge monster that is crippled into our maritime sector, and you begin to wonder, what exactly is the problem? Why are we finding it difficult to tackle these challenges? Because recent arrests have shown that perhaps some big wigs have been, had their hands soiled, should I say, in this unfortunate events.
Yeah, you see, oil theft, let me also clear certain things. Not too long ago, I read that Shell said they lose 150,000 barrels a day. Other companies have made some claims like that also. If you put together all the oil thieves in the Niger Delta, it is difficult for them to handle 150,000 barrels a day. How do they carry it? I mean, are we talking about a completely loose regime? Don't we have the Navy? Don't we have anybody there? And how do, I mean, is it by just breaking pipes that the people will be taking 150,000 barrels a day? I fought that statement with all sense of responsibility. Whatever thing they cook in the creeks, they cook in drums. Whatever thing they will export from the creeks where they may have broken pipes, they use canoes to go and be loading vessels outside. All these things are there. But can they handle 150,000 barrels a day? I'm not defending anybody. I know that these things exist. It's a problem that must be exterminated. The president said it must be stopped.
Recently, recent arrests have shown that it seems as if there's been some influence of some big wigs, of the society involved in some of these unfortunate incidents.
It is an understatement to say big wigs are involved. For you to hire a tanker for that kind of operation alone, you need to have not less than $10,000 to $20,000 a day that you're going to use in hiring the vessel. You don't know how long it will take for them to fill the vessel. If it takes a month for them to fill that vessel, you're talking about $20,000 times 30 days. Can any ordinary man on the street afford that kind of money? It's an understatement when you say big wigs are involved. Big wigs are the ones doing it. They only use the small boys in the creeks that know next to nothing about what they're doing. It's unfortunate that those ones have found themselves as ready tools to be used. But I tell you, we need to look better. We need to enforce physicalization at the loading points. There is a policy called physicalization policy where customs must be there. The Navy must be there. I think MPA, NIMASA, all of them need to be there. DPR need to be there when they're loading. Let us be sure that a man that is given allocation for 50,000 barrels will not come with a 2 million barrel capacity ship to load 50,000 barrels. We need to adjust these areas properly. We need to know who bought the machines for loading. How is it calibrated? We need to improve on our metering system. A lot of things needs to be done in that sector. We need to be sure of who handles what. These are areas that we are creeping into gradually. We are not, like I told you, we still have lots of work to do. We're there. We'll get there and we'll succeed. I can assure you that.
Now, come to think of it, let's even look at the private contractors. What's been their own contribution to ensure that our waterways are safe? Is there any synergy concerning them on that one? Do we even have any form of alliance with them? Or contract, if I may use that word?
You see, when you say private contractors, no private contractor is expressly given approval to monitor the waterways. For example, the much touted contract at NIMASA, it's not a contract for security. It's a contract to enhance, to enable NIMASA collect their revenues from ships that do not get to the port. But in course of doing that, they found out that there were pirates there and they needed to protect their staff. So Navy also came on board. So if anybody is doing security there, it is the Navy. Talk about the IOCs that hire platforms to secure their asset also. They engage the Navy to do it. And Navy is also doing that. So security, I would not say is expressly in the hands of anybody. Hiring patrol boats, yes. Some private companies provide patrol boats. But that securing the waterways, we have not abdicated that responsibility to any private person. The Navy is still in charge.
But don't you feel that the Nigerian Navy will perhaps someday need some assistance from some of these private firms, to help us monitor our waterways?
Yeah, we have enough men in the Navy, and they're doing very well so far. I'll score them very high. The new chief of naval staff started very well. He was on the water for a week, with the hierarchy of the Navy. It's never happened like that before. That is to say the commitment to, of the Navy, to ensure that this problem, the menace, is extinguished.
Right, I guess this is where we have to draw the curtain on this discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. Iwolele.
Thank you so much.
For spending time with us.
I must thank the management of Channels too. Thank you.
And it's on that note we have to draw the curtain on this week's edition of the program. We thank you for watching. Do remember, you can send in your questions, comments and suggestions to questiontime@channelstv.com or watch us online also via channelstv.com. Until we come your way again next week, I'm Ayotunde Balogun, and it's bye for now.